Nikola Jokic's quest to not only win MVP, but to do it averaging a triple-double continues. His Nuggets hosting the Toronto Raptors in the first quarter. You know, back in my day, your old Uncle Jeff used to be a high flyer. How about Jeff Green still able to throw it down? Jokic getting one of those dimes he would need in his pursuit of a triple-double in this one. He finds Kentavious Caldwell-Pope inside, who lays it in. Other end, Raptors dynamic duo start to create some offense. Pascal Siakam from the mid-range, Fred VanVleet going right. In the third is Jamal Murray fading away. And then here's Murray. Fake, open look. A guy that can score at that caliber is going to knock that one down. 24 points for Jamal. We got a 1-point game. It's VanVleet with a deep three-pointer. And then here's Scotty Barnes attacking the rim and just throwing that thing down. Raptors up 8 in the fourth. Nuggets are the number 1 seed in the West for a reason. Jokic making plays for himself and others. Didn't get a triple-double, but did have 17, 13, and 9. You saw the dish to Aaron Gordon. There's more Murray cutting Denver's deficit down to a point. Here's where the game is decided, though. You see, there is a foul called on Jakob Poeltl. Aaron Gordon draws it. Scotty Barnes doesn't like the call. And off of one technical foul, Scotty Barnes is ejected, apparently, for questioning the ref's integrity. Other end, Jokic is going to intentionally foul Poeltl, who's only a 60% free throw shooter. And this decision paid off. Poeltl goes to the line and misses both free throws. The Nuggets end up putting the Raptors away with a little bit of controversy. The ref that ejected Scotty Barnes was none other than Scotty Foster. Anybody who knows Foster's past knows he can be pretty quick with the whistle sometimes. Nuggets win 118-113. I thought there was a very interesting conversation taking place on ESPN's First Take by two guest hosts in Kendrick Perkins and JJ Reddick. So I'll start with what Perk had to say about a week ago, right? So Perk alluded to some of the voters in the league being biased towards white players. So in theory, what Perkins was pretty much saying is, you know, 3 players since 1990 have won MVP despite being out of the top 10 in points per game. For those who don't know, that list is Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, and then obviously Jokic is about to win it this year. He's not in the top 10 in scoring. Perkins then asked this question to Stephen A. What do those guys have in common? I'll let it sit there and marinate. You think about it, all right? So JJ Reddick was on First Take this week and clearly heard Perkins' comments from a week ago, and he wasn't going for it. Reddick said, Stephen A. Smith, I mean no offense to you, and I mean no offense to First Take, because I think this show is extremely valuable. It is an honor to be on this desk every day. It really is. But what we just witnessed is the problem with this show, where we create narratives that do not exist in reality. The implication that you are implying that the white voters that vote on the NBA awards are racist, that they favor white people. He said, Kendrick Perkins, you just said that. That's exactly what you implied. Now, Perkins did respond, saying he stated the facts. ESPN has walked back some of Perkins' comments the next day. I just want to say this side note before I get into Perkins and JJ Reddick and what they specifically said. This is why I believe, as a former ESPN employee, that they need a consistent host, a opposite side of Stephen A. Smith. You cannot keep doing this guest host stuff. Now, I'm sure they're not going to be mad at some of the ratings they get from JJ Reddick and Kendrick Perkins going at it. But again, I believe ESPN needs a consistent co-host across the desk from Stephen A. Smith, because this can get messy and this can get dangerous. When you bring your NBA analysts on as guest hosts, that's a messy one, right? To respond, everybody knows I'm not the biggest fan of JJ Reddick's commentary. And let me just say this. I think JJ Reddick clearly knows his game better than me and a lot of other people in this country. He played it at a pretty well level at his best, a phenomenal shooter in this league. I'm not a fan of JJ Reddick, the analyst on ESPN. I think he's pro player. And again, I understand it. He is a player. He's a former player that's going to always ride with his guys. But I just think he's bad for television. I've said this in the past, and I stand by it. JJ Reddick is not good for programming. If all you do is come on platforms like First Take and talk about how the fans are this, the fans are too hard on players, the fans don't understand load management, I hear you, Reddick. But at the end of the day, what I've many times said is JJ Reddick doesn't understand what the hierarchy is. The most important chain in the hierarchy is not the players. And that's what I need NBA players to realize. Y'all are not the most important part in this hierarchy. If y'all are hooping and nobody's watching, y'all might as well be doing it at the YMCA. That's what players of today need to realize. The most important piece to the hierarchy is fans. And I believe guys like JJ Reddick forget that oftentimes. So when you're on these shows saying fans don't need to be critical of players, they just pretty much need to sit down and enjoy basketball. Well, I could be doing something else with my 3 hours. Okay, if I can't talk about what I'm watching, okay, I'm going to go do something else. Go play with my kids. I'm going to go play basketball where I can talk about my own game at the YMCA. You're not going to tell me I can't talk about something I give my precious time to coming out of a pandemic where a lot of people were broke. Yeah, okay, I'll just go watch something else. Somebody else that values my opinion and perspective. I gamble my money on this product, and you telling me I can't talk about it? Where'd I do that at? So I've never been the biggest fan of JJ Reddick. From an analyst perspective, I actually think he gives a lot of good game when he's talking to players on his podcast, talking the X's and O's of the game. That's where I like him at. With that being said, I agree with Reddick on this one. I love Perk. I think at the end of the day, Perk stands on the right side of history more times than not, but I disagree with him. I do not believe Nikola Jokic is winning the MVP this year, and he is going to win it, going away, by the way, because he's a white player. I don't. He's a white player that's doing the bare minimum of an MVP standard. I don't believe that's anywhere near the situation with Nikola Jokic. Look, I want to be clear with you guys. I watch more basketball than most. Nikola Jokic is the MVP, y'all. I'm telling you this unbiasedly. Jokic is the MVP. Jokic does more night in, night out. Just watch the games. If you don't watch the games, say that. If I understand how you get to the point that Jokic is not the MVP if you don't watch the games. If you watch a quarter of the season and all you watch is some great games from Joel Embiid on ESPN or ABC or TNT, I get what you're saying. Embiid's big games be like 42 points and 13 rebounds, while Jokic just be putting up 25, 10, and 10. The guys who numbers like literally bounce off the screen are the guys that usually score more points. But if you watch the games that Jokic always plays in, by the way, the guy's pretty much barely gotten injured in his 3-year MVP run, which even guys I love, like Giannis, have taken more nights off over the last couple years in season. Embiid has had his struggles with injuries in the past. This year he's been pretty darn healthy, though, to be fair to him. Embiid, obviously, at his apex, plays better defense than Jokic. That is a fact. Jokic has worked himself to be a decent defender in this league. But when we talk about the MVP conversation, if Jokic knows he's not going to be a great defender, but he's putting himself in position to make so many plays offensively for his team, it offsets some of his defensive struggles that he does have, which I saw a guy on Twitter post some footage of the Toronto Raptors absolutely destroying Jokic in the pick and roll in that game. They just destroyed him in the fourth quarter. They just absolutely just put him in a blender that entire fourth quarter. It was disgusting to watch. The reality is, though, with Jokic, he makes so many plays on offense. The offense runs through him so much. If his team is winning games, his fan base has a strong, argument like, the point of the game is to win. And nobody is impacting wins more right now in the league than Nikola Jokic. Look, I wouldn't lie to you. If I thought Joel Embiid was the MVP, I would tell y'all Joel Embiid should be the MVP. I have said this before, and I will say it again to you. Nikola Jokic will continue to win MVPs until his team loses in the playoffs at full strength. The day that happens, he won't win another MVP. I don't care what he puts up in the regular season next year. If the Nuggets lose in the first round to the Warriors, if they're the 7 or 8 seed, to the Lakers, if they're the 8 seed, to the Clippers, if they're the 8 seed, Jokic will not win an MVP next year. This stuff is about narratives. And his narrative will die the moment he loses at full strength in the playoffs, because people will call his regular season runs a facade, and they will look elsewhere for MVP votes. But until that happens, it has not happened thus far. It has not happened thus far, and he's averaging a triple-double. His play has gotten better, even though the Nuggets have brought back 2 really good players. Not all-stars, but good players. He deserves the award. He's going to win the award, and I don't think race has anything to do with this one. I think the Steve Nash conversation is a better debate of about 15 years ago than the Jokic one. Jokic is balling, y'all. I know that sounds hard to believe. This white guy that doesn't look to be the most athletic. You're wrong, man. If you watch the games, the dude is balling and deserves everything he's getting.